In this video, we are going to learn how to solve one- and two-step equations. Let's begin. So, one-step equations. When solving when solving equations, our goal is to isolate the variable. So, isolate. Isolate. That means to get the variable by itself. And we're going to isolate the variable by using inverse operations. So remember, isolating a variable, it's like if we have x plus 4 equals 12, remember, you want to get each thing on its side. You want the x to be by itself on the left side. Or, if the x is on the right side, you want to get it by itself. But either way, you want to get rid of this plus 4 or whatever happens to be happening to x. So if it's not x plus 4, but 4 times x, you got to get rid of this 4 being multiplied with it, or if it's x divided by 4. Again, you have to get rid of the divided by 4 by doing the opposite. So in the case of if it's dividing by 4, you do the opposite of dividing by 4 by multiplying both sides by 4, and then you'll get the answer, or you'll solve for x that way. List the inverse, or what is an inverse? Also known as opposite of the following operations. So what's the opposite of addition? Subtraction. Subtraction. Opposite of subtracting is adding. Opposite of multiplying is dividing. And opposite of dividing is multiplying. All right, so when you have a two-step equation, let me give you an example of a two-step equation. How about 2x plus 4 equals 20? That's an example of a two-step equation. The first thing is to use addition or subtraction first. You may want to underline that. Use addition or subtraction first to remove the constant. What is the constant? The constant is this guy right here. It's the plus 4. So this is a 2x. It's not considered a constant. What else is considered a constant? If I had an equation that was like 4 plus 3y equals 10, which one is the constant? It would be the 4. Well, I guess I shouldn't have used 4. You might be thinking all 4s are constant. Why isn't the 3y the constant? It's because it's 3 multiplied by the variable. So if it's attached to the variable, multiplying or dividing the variable, it's not a constant. It's not by itself. The constants are the numbers, which are just kind of hanging by themselves, not being multiplied by anything, not being divided by anything. So those are constants. So you want to use addition or subtraction to get rid of or to remove the constants first. And then in this case, for example, we would want to subtract by 4, which means we subtracted the other side by 4 as well. And then second, we want to use multiplication or division. So use multiplication or division to remove the coefficient. And the coefficient is just the number in front of the variable or with the variable. So if it's, 2 is the coefficient, you want to get rid of that. Because it's 2 times x, you would use division. If I had x divided by 4 equals 10, the coefficient would be the divided by 4, because technically it's 1 divided by 4. Do the opposite of that, which is multiplying by 4. So use the multiplication division to remove the coefficient. And like I said, sorry, I didn't do a good job of writing that word. Coefficient. And remember, coefficient is just the number that is either being multiplied or divided by the variable, with the variable. Tip, if dividing by a fraction, multiply by the reciprocal. What's that again? Well, if we had, if our equation looked like this, 3/4 x equals 20, how do we get rid of the reciprocal? Well, you just multiply. Sorry, how do you get rid of the fraction? Well, you multiply by the reciprocal, which is 4/3. Remember, you do it on both sides, because 4 times 3 is 12. 3 times 4 is 12, and 12 over 12 is just 1, so it ends up canceling out the fraction. All right, let's go ahead and to some examples. We want to solve these one-step equations. These are kind of nice. Show all our work. Number 1, we have, I actually, before we start, I like to draw a wall down the middle of the line. We have x divided by 1.5 equals 16. The opposite of dividing is multiplying by 1.5. So multiply by 1.5. Multiply the other side by 1.5 as well. That causes this to cancel. 1.5 times 16, that is 32, sorry, 16, but that's 8. 24, I believe. 24. I wish I had a calculator. But I believe that is true. I'm fairly certain it is. Actually, I think I just found a calculator. Calculator. What is... Oh, darn it. Sorry, people. I know I'm taking a long time. 1.5 times 16. Look at that. It is 24. Pretty good. So x equals 24 is our answer. Let's go ahead and try another one. We've got, again, wall down the middle. We have 12 divided by n equals 42. Or sorry, 12 times n equals 42. Let's divide by 12 to cancel that out. That's the inverse of multiplying, so divide the other side by 12 as well. N equals 42 divided by 12. That's not a number that goes in evenly, I don't think. 42 divided by 12 is 3.5. 3.5 or 3.5. So n equals 3.5 or 3.5. No, if you didn't have a calculator, you can just say like, well, that's 3 and 6/12, and 3 and 6/12 is just, 1/2. All right, we have this weird problem where we have e, 6 over 7 times e. Remember, if we want to get rid of the fraction, the best way to do it is multiply by the reciprocal. 7 over 6, because 7 times 6 is 42, and 6 times 7 is 42, so 42 over 42 equals 1. So they basically cancel each other out. You can cross cancel also. Cancels each other out. Oh, we got to multiply the other side by the same thing, which is 7 over 6. How do I do this? Well, 12 is just 12 over 1. 12 times 7 is 60, 72, 84. It's 84. And 1 times 6 is 6. Actually, I probably should have done some cross-canceling to reduce it. Yeah, that would have saved me a lot of time. But 60, 66, 72, 78, and 84. I believe that is 14. Yeah, I believe that is 14. Yeah. E equals 14. All right, let's try number 4. Now, number 4 is not number 4 is a one-step equation still. G plus 3.5 equals 10. What's the opposite of, here's my variable. To isolate it, I need to get rid of the plus 3.5. What's the opposite of plus 3.5? Minus 3.5. Which means that cancels. Subtract 3.5 from 10. That's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. That gives us 6.5, I believe. 6.5 or 6.5. So G equals 6 and 1/2. Number 5. Let's go ahead and change my color for the fun of it. Let's go with dark green, actually. That's more fun. Let's add, t minus 4.25. The opposite of minus 4.25 is plus 4.25, which means I'm going to add 4.25 over here. This cancels. This is basically 4.25 minus 4, which gives us 0.25. Because when we have opposite signs, we have plus and minus. What we need to do is actually subtract and take the sign of the bigger number. Which one's bigger, the negative 4 or the positive 4.25? Well, the positive 4.25 is bigger, so our answer ends up being positive. It's positive 0.25. And so t equals 0.25. Hooray. Let's do the next one. This one's a little weird. We have m, which over here, and we want to isolate it. It's positive m2, which is what we like. We like positive variables because it makes life a little easier. What's happening to it? Well, technically, like 6 is being subtracted from m. If we want to think about it that way, what's the opposite of this minus 6? Plus 6. That's what, basically get this guy by itself by getting rid of everything else on this side. Well, what's the opposite of minus 6? Plus 6. That'll cancel that out. So I need a plus 6 on this side. 6 plus 3.6 is 9.6. And we have m on this side. You may be thinking, well, don't we bring down the plus m? Well, plus m means positive m. And positive m could just be written as m, right? So m equals 9.6. There we go. Now we want to write and solve the equation modeled by the following. Here we have negative x and negative x. How many negative x's do we have? Whoops, we have negative 2x. Bring down the equal sign. We have negative 1, negative 1, negative 1, negative 1, negative. How many negative 1s do we have? We have negative 6. So negative 2x equals negative 6. Let me write it right over here, the equation. Negative 2x equals negative 6. Now they want the solution right below, but I better solve it over here. I need to get the, actually let's use a different color. Get the x by itself. What's happening to the x? Well, it's being multiplied with negative 2. So what's the opposite of multiplying by negative 2? Dividing by negative 2. And that cancels out. Divide this by negative 2, because whatever you do on one side, you do to the other. You end up with a negative divided by a negative equals a positive. So you get a positive 3. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And then bring down the x. X equals 3. Yay, nifty. All right, we are going to be doing some two-step equations now. And this is where we want to isolate the variable with coefficient first by doing adding and subtracting first, and then we get rid of the coefficient. So here's my variable with the coefficient. I'm going to go ahead and include that plus to indicate that it is a positive 9m. All right, here it is. What do we need to get rid of? If this is, how do we get this guy by itself first? Well, get rid of the 14. What's the opposite of 14? Negative 14. Now, why are we subtracting it and not like dividing it? It's because 14 is being added to 9m. And what's the opposite of adding 14 to it? Subtracting it. Subtract 14 on this side as well. This ends up canceling. You end up with a negative. When you subtract, when you combine it with a negative, it makes a bigger negative. It doesn't turn into a positive. That only works when you're multiplying or dividing. But when you're adding or subtracting, in this case, I'm subtracting and subtracting some more, it makes an even bigger negative. That's negative 27. And then bring down the 9m. You may be thinking about, what about the plus? You don't have to do it. It's a positive 9m. All right, 9m. Now, I want to get the m by itself. 9 is being multiplied with m, so I need to do the opposite of multiplying by m, divide by m. Divide by m. That means the 9's get canceled. I'm left with m. 27 divided by 9 is 3. Is it positive or negative? Well, a negative divided by a positive is negative. So m is negative 3. Let's do the next one. We have, this one looks a little odd because the variable's on the right side, but here's my variable with coefficient. How do I get that by itself? Well, 6 is being subtracted from it, so it's minus 6 with the opposite of minus 6, plus 6. Whatever I do on one side, I do to the other, plus 6 on the other side. This cancels. Negative 12 plus 6, well, I have a negative and a positive, which means I should subtract. And then, let's see. Subtract the smaller number from the bigger number. 12 minus 6 is 6. And take the sign of the bigger number. So negative, 6 is going to be our answer. So 12 minus 6 is 6, and then because 12 is bigger and it's 12 is negative, therefore the answer is negative. Because the bigger number, you take the sign of the bigger number. All right, what's left over here is n divided by 2. Right, n over 2, which means n divided by 2. What's the opposite of dividing by 2? Multiplying by 2. So multiply that by 2, multiply this by 2. You should end up with 2 times negative 6 is positive times a negative is a negative. Negative 12, the 2's cancel, so you end up with n. So negative 12 equals n, or you could say n equals negative 12. They both mean the same thing. Let's take a look at 10. We have 1/2 b minus 16. Again, variable and coefficient are over there. Try to get rid of everything else on this side of the equal sign. What's the opposite of subtracting 16? Adding 16. And that'll cancel that out. Now I have to add 16 to the other side. So this is basically negative 4 plus 16. So they have opposite signs. You're going to subtract. 16 minus 4 is 12. And is it going to be positive or negative? It's going to be positive because 16 is positive. And it's bigger than the negative 4. It's bigger than 4. So bring down the equal sign. Bring down everything else, which is the 1/2 b. Okay, how do I get rid of fractions again? You multiply by the reciprocal. So here we have it. I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, which is 2 over 1. And that ends up canceling that, which means I multiply the other side by 2 over 1. So 12 times 2 is 24. 1 times 1 is 1, so 24 over 1, which is the same thing as 24. So we're left with b equals 24, which is our answer. Let's go to number 11, 12, and 13. Almost done, almost there. So draw our little wall right here. Here is our variable and coefficient. Get rid of everything else. What's the opposite of adding 15? Subtracting 15, of course. That'll cancel. Subtract 15 from here. Now, remember, I'm not subtracting 15 from 13 because they're both negative. Two negatives make a bigger negative when we are adding or subtracting, or I like to call that combining. 15 and negative 13, that is negative 28. And then this got canceled. The only thing left to bring down is 4w. So 4 times w equals negative 28. The opposite of multiplying by 4 is dividing by 4, which cancels that. 28 divided by 4 is 5, 6, 7. And remember, it's a negative. Negative 28 divided by 4. Positive 4, which gives us a negative answer. So w equals negative 7. Ta-da. Let's do another one, because why not? All right, we have our number and coefficient right there. Get rid of everything else on this side, which is adding 31. The opposite of adding 31 is subtracting 31. Subtract 31 from both sides. That'll cancel. This will get me 40 minus 31. That's easy. That's 9. And that's d divided by 1.6. Now, opposite of dividing by 1.6 is multiplying by 1.6. The 1.6 cancels, leaves us with a d. On the other side, we have 9 times 1.6. 9 times 1.6. I actually do not know that off the top of my head, unfortunately. Actually, probably could figure it out, but I don't want to do it without a calculator just in case I mess up. That's 14.4. So d equals 14.4. Pretty good.